All right. Thank you, Spirit of Troy. Fight on. I miss hearing those songs. I hope everyone had a great break and now on to more amazing programming. As someone who has run her own business for more than 20 years, I can tell you from personal experience it is equal parts rewarding and challenging. But I have always found tremendous value in listening to the stories and experiences of other business owners. That's why I'm particularly excited about our next panel discussion. Don't wait for a seat at the table, build your own. Our panelists will talk about their journeys and share what they have learned about owning and managing a business. Our discussion today will be moderated by Jennifer Berson, the founder and president of Generation PR, a public relations marketing special in beauty, baby, and lifestyle brands. It is my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Berson.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Your audio cut out for a bit, so just for context, I'll explain who I am. I'm Jen Berson. I'm the founder of Generation PR, and we specialize in promoting beauty, baby, and lifestyle brands. And I'm also a USC alum. I was class of 2001 in Gould Law School, so I'm a former attorney. So I'm really honored to be sharing on this panel today with these really inspiring female entrepreneurs who've made big waves in their respective industries. Paige Adams Geller is the founder and CEO of Paige, originally a denim brand. Paige has expanded into a worldwide premium lifestyle collection for men and women. Her denim collection is known for giving the best booty on the market. And based on personal experience, I can say that this is 100% true. Welcome, Paige. Vanessa Du is the co-founder and chief sales officer of HealthAid. HealthAid makes kombucha and other feel-good, bubbly beverages sold at retailers nationwide. And I have my delicious tropical punch right here. So happy to have you on this panel. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And Dr. Terry Horton is a workplace futurist and a business strategist. She consults and trains organizations, executives, and entrepreneurs, helping them humanize their workplace, develop future-focused leaders, and to responsibly use data for good. Welcome, Dr. Horton. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
All right, guys, we have a great discussion today. I'm so excited to dive in and chat about your businesses. And I'm so inspired by the amazing businesses you've all created. And I'm sure there've been a lot of hard-won lessons along the way. When building your business, what mistakes did you make or challenges did you face along the way that maybe ended up in actually serving as some of the best lessons for you? Let's start with Vanessa.
Yeah, I would say two really pop out to me. It's been 9 years since we started HealthAid. Me and my best friend and her husband, we started selling HealthAid back in the Brentwood Farmers Market. And we were three bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, entrepreneurs just excited to get our brand out there. We didn't necessarily dot our I's and cross our T's when it came to financial management. And I would say, first is really that understanding that cash is king and understanding the financial model through and through ourselves rather than kind of leaving it to anyone else. And I would say maybe for any young entrepreneur that doesn't have that financial background, that's a hard lesson to learn. And also, if it's not a skill set within your wheelhouse, you need to find how to kind of bring that into your world. And it was a hard lesson to us, honestly, when we couldn't pay our credit card bill. So we had to understand how to raise money, how to really bring money into the company, how to pay ourselves. Because at that point, we were living off of $300 every 6 weeks. So that was a big lesson. I would say the second one is really hiring a team that can help scale your business. I'm sure, all the ladies here have hired and talked to, have war stories with employees. And I would say that's probably the hardest lesson is just seeing people to come through that aren't really a fit. Yet they're, people at the end of the day, and you want to do right by them, but you also want to do right by the business. And that's always a tough lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Horton, do you have any lessons that you learned that maybe started out as challenges or road bumps in your business?
Certainly. I think I've always been a futurist of sorts before I became a self-described futurist. And so one of the challenges that I faced was actually arriving in spaces before most folks were there, if that makes sense. And so I remember transitioning from the media industry and marketing and advertising and brand building, and refocusing my business after the Great Recession. I took everything that I learned about marketing and from marketing director roles and so forth, and thought about the impact to people and industries as a result of the Great Recession. And so because of that, I repositioned the business. And so where I actually found a gap was that there was going to be a need for employers to develop employer brands in order to attract the top talent that they needed to move forward in the future of work. But one of my mistakes was focusing my attention on clients that weren't ready to look at how marketing would transition and begin to transform human resources through employee experience as well as brand experience. And so I wasted resources, I wasted time. And so what I learned from that was oftentimes we will arrive in spaces ahead of time. We're women, we're intuitive, and we see things often that others do not. And so the key is when you realize that you're there, is to focus your energies on the markets, the clients, the people, the environments, the ecosystems that they're actually ready for you so that you can thrive.
Thank you for that. And Paige.
Oh, absolutely. This was a big lesson. And I think some of our mistakes can be our best lessons. When I first launched the brand, I was focused on really finding a place for denim from a female perspective. There weren't any male designers in the denim industry, and I wanted to really focus on denim from a female perspective. So when I started the concept and really thought about this femininity, I created this logo that was very feminine and swirly, and it was Paige Premium Denim. And then, wow, fast forward into thinking about oh, wow, I want to do more than just jeans for women. I also want to do denim for men. And that little swirly logo, Paige, isn't going to look good on a men's. They're not going to be attracted to that logo. Then thinking about the fact that I named it Paige Premium Denim and wasn't future tripping on all the other categories that I was super excited to expand into, I had limited myself, and I had to really kind of regroup, rebrand, and come up with a really strong logo that was just Paige. And that's it. And Paige could encompass anything for men, anything for women, and any other future categories that I had the vision that I really wanted to step into. Because now Paige is a lifestyle brand for men and women, and we create all different kinds of products other than denim. But in that backtracking, I really limited myself and didn't think and expand to the big picture and globally what would be the most enticing. So it was a good lesson to learn. Always think the big picture first and then plan accordingly so you don't limit yourself and you have all possibilities for your company.
Yeah, that's a great lesson. Always kind of approach it from the big picture thinking and work towards that goal. And I can relate to that. Actually, the design of the logo having a very feminine touch to it. When I left law, I had, my business card was very ecru colored and boring, and it was Jennifer, attorney at law, so boring. And then when I started my PR firm, I went the complete opposite direction, and my card had a silhouette of a girl on it and a very, almost Poochie-esque inspired pattern in the background. And it was I'm very feminine, all girl, moving away. I even kind of went away from Jennifer and moved to Jen so that I could be almost a new identity. But then I did realize that logo and brand identity was very limiting, and I was really limiting the kinds of businesses that I could ultimately work with. So I had a very similar path and realization. But Paige, I actually wanted to dive a little deeper into the topic that you brought up about kind of starting your business and having that female perspective that you brought. And initially you said that it maybe led you down a path that limited you, but how has being a woman actually served as a distinct advantage for you in growing your business?
I love this question because I think that when I really honed in on the decision to start Paige, I had gone to a life coach, and I was working as a fit model in the industry and kind of capped out at the top of my game, and was thinking about what do I really want to do with my life? I love creativity. I love fashion. but yet I really have a voice that is strong and I want to empower others. And so when I went to this life coach, I started talking about all the things that make me tick, that inspire me, that motivate me, that move me. And what really ended up happening in our homework is she said, wow, what if you started your own brand from a female perspective and you focused on the things that you're passionate about? And that really spoke to me because I felt like I've been through so much as a model, actress, musician in my past with the hashtag Me Too movements. And what really hit me, and it makes me emotional, was when I was doing this work with my life coach, it came to fruition that I wanted to create a healthy and safe work environment and to empower others around me. And my vision was to be inclusive, and inclusive when it comes to body types and creating clothing that works for different body types, inclusive in my mission for empowering women, men, people of different races and nationalities, like really have this beautiful business that represents everything that I'm passionate about in my heart and soul. And so when we started Paige and had that foundation, that's really what wakes me up and gets me out of bed every day. That's what makes me tick. And that's what keeps me moving forward, because I truly believe that our company is a company that represents all of those things. So it means a lot to me. And I think that being a female and being a woman and being in touch with those emotions and those past experiences that may be detrimental and scary and tough and difficult, having resilience and being able to overcome those adversities makes me a better leader, because I think I'm like really understanding about what I think some of the needs are within our company. So that makes me happy and makes me proud. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you for that insight. And Dr. Horton, how has being a woman actually served as a distinct advantage for you in growing your business as a workplace futurist?
Yeah, I would say it's absolutely a distinctive advantage for a couple of reasons, not only as a woman, but a woman of color and a woman of a certain age, for quite frankly. And so also coming from a non-traditional background, there's nothing in my background at all that said that I would end up, as a workforce futurist, expertise, sitting at the intersection of the future of work, AI, and the impact to people and organizations. And so not only did I not have a traditional trajectory by way of career, I also did not educationally. I stopped counting. I have about 20 letters after my name, and I still need it, right? To go back to build up some currency to be able to, really kind of prove and demand, access to the spaces that I wanted to be in. And so that has been a distinctive advantage, and also a way of empowering other women to reimagine their futures and to step into spaces that they never imagined or thought they might fit in at all. And so part of the mission, if you will, or vision of my business is to empower more women to move into the AI and tech space, and to do it in ways that support their intention and purpose and allow them to thrive on their terms. So telling my story, in addition to, corporate training, speaking, and all that other sort of stuff, and I'm a lecturer as well, I position myself as a role model, not just, again, for women and women of color, but also for women and women of a certain age. I'll just tell that little secret, women over 50, to not be afraid of reinventing, and really just focus on, the dynamism that exists, particularly as it relates to the unfolding of the future of work. I'm really, really excited about that. It's frightening and exciting at the same time. My job is to inspire women to propel themselves into those spaces. We can do anything. Match your passion with expertise, tech, some funding behind it. The problems that we can solve, and all of the newness that we can create, and the opportunities that we can create are unlimited. So that's what that advantage has done for me.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, we can. We can do anything. Vanessa, same to you. I would imagine the beverage industry is probably pretty male dominated. What was that like for you and your co-founder breaking into that male dominated industry?
100%. The typical phrase in the industry is most are pale, male, and stale. in the CPG beverage world. And, for me and my 2 out of 3 of us in terms of co-founders are female. And so sitting around a table of investors have typically always been men on the other side of it, who have no connection to the consumer that we're looking to talk to. They don't know the space, and they also don't know the company that we're building, right? And so they're speaking from a very high horse, a very ivory tower, if you will. And just going through some of these financial conversations, being kind of just green to the industry, but also that unique female voice, and also being a minority in that discussion as well. It has taught me a lot. It's taught me to have a tough skin. It's taught me to understand how to use my words both as a weapon and really how to be eloquent in a way that's effective, because even though we like to think we're at the same table, it does feel like you have something more to prove just because we are females. And so we always would bring it, me and my co-founders would say. And I guess I would say that the second piece is a tagline at Health Aid is follow your gut. Our goal, our mission is to really inspire others to follow their gut. And I think more than anything, we've talked to our investors, we talked to our team, we talked to our consumers around that idea. And I think the unique perspective that females particularly bring is that intuition, is that ability to follow your gut more so than others, I would say. And I've seen it time and time again with our female leaders that we are able to tap into that true north and really follow that versus, digging into Excel and having data lead all of our decisions. We're able to be decisive and go based on how we're feeling.
Yeah, that's great. So much insight that you guys have already shared. I'm like wishing I could sit and take copious notes on all of these gems, but I wanted to also mention to our audience here, there's a Q&A function on the dashboard. We'd love to have any questions you have. We're going to be doing Q&A at the end, so be sure to get in your questions for these awesome panelists. And one thing I wanted to dive into also is this kind of concept of work-life balance. And we know that balance kind of implies equilibrium, which to me feels like an impossible standard. It's not possible to achieve equilibrium where everything in your life is just in perfect balance. So I've kind of adopted the idea of work-life integration and trying to create a business that supports the kind of life that I want to have. Especially for me, the distinction between my previous career as a civil litigation attorney and not really seeing any female role models that truly had the kind of life that I wanted to have, that were able to be really present and checked in for their kids, and able to also have the respect of their colleagues and, be partner. It was just one or the other. And I saw a lot of women that had children and then essentially left the firm or left the workforce. And I knew early on that that was not the path for me, and that I needed to kind of forge a different path so that I could create the vision for the life that I wanted to have, which means for me being able to be in control of my time and who I get to work with, and being present for my family and my kids. And so that is kind of what I've adopted in this kind of work-life integration approach. And, I'd love to hear from you, especially Vanessa. I'd imagine in this time of your life of having a 9-month-old and running your business, this is probably more relevant for you than ever before. How do you integrate your business in your personal life?
Yeah, I mean, there's different roles and hats I think each one of us wear at different points in the day. And I've had to learn that myself, just knowing, okay, I'm wearing the founder hat right now. I'm wearing the mom hat right now. I'm wearing the wife hat. I'm wearing the, be good to myself hat and the self-love hat. And I realized that it is this integration. And I've had to learn, there's a book called Design Your Life. And it's all about the cups that fulfill you, and making sure that those individual cups are filled so that nothing is ever running on E. And so for me, it's very much that family time. It's very much, am I devoting self-care and self-love to kind of my day? Am I taking enough time and space to strategize for my business? And so, usually I'll take stock, once a month and saying, are these cups filled to what brings me joy and fulfillment. And if not, I have to do little things that tweak it, whether it's, scheduling my Peloton class because I haven't worked out in 3 weeks, or maybe I do have to take a day off from work because I've been working nonstop and I need some time with my baby. And maybe it's just some of those things that I need support from my husband to really devote to a big meeting because I just gotta own this week and a big deal is happening. For me, it's just having that time to make sure those cups are filled, and I'm happy with what those cups are in my life.
And Paige, how about you? How are you working on work-life integration, and any kind of practical tips or takeaways that you can share that have really worked for you as you've grown and really scaled your business?
Absolutely. This is such a great question for me. I learned so much from my parents. They were also entrepreneurs and they worked together and had a business together. And my brother ended up having a business as an entrepreneur with his wife, and then my sister as well. So we have a family of entrepreneurs. And when I was a child, I used to get crazy because I'd be like, all mom and dad do is shop talk. It's like they go to work, they come home, and they shop talk. And all they do is talk about work. And I'm like, I'm never going to be like that. And then fast forward to my life as an entrepreneur. My husband is my business partner. My beautiful stepdaughter is the head of our marketing department, also a USC Annenberg alumni. And my stepson is the head of our men's division at Paige. So I got scared that all of a sudden all we would do is shop talk and have family dinners and only talk about work, and that it would become a real issue. So the beautiful part of that is that I really learned to avoid what I saw my parents struggle with, and to make sure that I make time for self-care and friends and travel and have things to look forward to. So I'm pretty rigid with my routine, and my routine is sacred to me in the morning. It's like I get up in the morning, I play with the dogs, I have coffee, I work out, and that is my sacred time. And I meditate after I work out, and I don't want to have any interaction with anyone in regards to business. And I do what I need to do to take care of myself, self-care. Then I make sure that when we're on vacations or we're doing family things, that we don't only focus on business. And then I always plan in my schedule, along with self-care, therapy, workouts, meditation, something to look forward to that involves my friends. And I want to make sure that I don't work my life away, and that I make sure and live my life, because I want to work to live, not live to work. So there's always something to look forward to. That's that thing. If I finish everything that I need to finish and I do good, then I'm going to take that little weekend trip and do something that like makes my heart and soul happy, which is usually getting out in nature, and doing something with a friend that fulfills my heart and soul. And this really keeps like that triangle really healthy: body, mind, and spirit, and work. And it keeps, when I'm happy, the rest of the family's happy and the rest of the business is happy. So I think it's really important for that time of self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Horton, how do you, with all of your speaking engagements and running your business, how do you work to live, not live to work?
I agree. That's a great question. And the advice from the other panelists has been fantastic. I'm going to zero in on one other aspect of it, and that's work-life harmony. As opposed to work-life balance, just a different shift on that. For me, what has helped a lot is that I'm able to do work that I love. And so being able to do work that I love, you kind of find the threading. So the threading for me is educating, uplifting, and empowering. So it doesn't matter, in the context of the work that I do today versus that of what I'll even do in the future. That is my authentic purpose. That is my intention. So the work that I do ties into that. It just so happens that a lot of the things that I do, that I like, that are not tied to work, fall in those categories too. I will say, the whole notion of balance, I have struggled with that my whole career. I will self-confess, I've been a workaholic for way too long. But one of the things that I learned from COVID, I actually wrote a book during the pandemic, if you can believe that. It comes out in June. And one of the things that I ended up doing, just as a coping mechanism of sorts, started hobbies again. I would never in my life have imagined that I had time for a hobby. And so I started hydro gardening. Nothing in my past said that I would be successful at that. Prior to COVID, all the plants in my home were artificial. I don't know what happened. I just fell in love with plants. And so I started growing exotic plants. And then I have a colleague and she does the same. We do the same type of work and we travel a lot, all that sort of stuff. And she started coloring. And I said, coloring? Like, who does that? Who has time for that? Fell in love with coloring in adult coloring books, from coloring books on interior design to whatever topic. Who knew there was such a market for that? Those are just little tiny examples. There's also the aspect of self-care. I became more spiritual during that time as well. And so that really helped with the balance. But we have there's an intro, I'll share this one point. There's an interesting report that came out earlier this year from McKinsey. They do an annual report on the state of women in the workplace. We are at a crisis point. We're at an inflection point, but it doesn't have to be negative. More than one of every 4 women, period, today, as a result of the competing priorities and pressures experienced during 2020 and to date, if you can believe this, are contemplating downsizing their careers or even leaving the workplace. And so if not now, when then is the point. And so I talk about the future a lot. What does it look? What should we be focusing on in the context of work-life balance and harmony moving forward? Now is the time to start thinking about tap into your authentic self. What is your true purpose? How will you intentionally approach that? And how will you deliver on that audaciously and unapologetically? We have the tools, we have the technology, and we have the time and space to do that at this point. And so my recommendation is to look for harmony. How can you harmonize your life, your passions, along with your family, a great partner, wonderful family? How can you harmonize all of that through the lens of creating and living your life on your terms? To me, that's the key for the future.
Yeah, that absolutely resonates with me, and also what you said about doing work that you really love and harmonizing your passions with your work. And that's what I've been trying to do in my business for the last few years. I have another side of my business where I have developed an entire suite of programs that are geared towards teaching women how to become pitching powerhouses so that they can learn how to do PR as a service so that they can build an income on their terms. And then we give them an entire framework for how to build a scale so they can launch, grow, or build an agency so they can launch, grow, and scale their own profitable business. And I feel so called to do that because I have this unique perspective of the former career that I have just really not serving me and not feeling like it was anything where I felt like I had control over my time and my success. And pivoting to start my own PR agency, this is now 16 years ago, was one of the best decisions that I ever made. And then transitioning into motherhood and having the kind of business that could support that, integration or harmony, as you say, that makes me just want to teach other women how to do it. So I feel what you're saying about this shift that's happening in the workplace with women and wanting to give tools and strategies so that women can own their career path, their career destiny, their earning income. And that has really lit me up in the last year, launching the side of my business in the middle of the pandemic and serving women so that they can feel empowered and grow their own businesses on their terms. So yeah, that really resonates with me. And that, kind of describes a pivotal point for me in my career. What are some pivotal points for you that have defined what your business is and what you're moving towards in your business? Paige, I'll start with you.
Great. Such a good question. I think what happened along the way with my business was thinking about, it's always important to understand what the demand is in the marketplace. And so when I launched, the demand was for a feminine and female perspective in denim. And then what was beautiful along the way is in listening to the customer and really not trying to put blinders on, really hearing what it is that they wanted from the company in the future. So it's more inclusivity, more product extensions. We'd love it. Your jeans are so comfortable. Can you also make other beautiful feminine creations that are in other categories such as wovens and silks and knits and sweaters, and can you extend? And then we also had the questions from, you do such a great job with female and feminine and like fabrics that are so comfortable for women. How about thinking about like skinny jeans for men, and what would that look like? And so really listening to the customer. I used to do a lot of personal appearances. And so my work week would usually be Monday through Friday, being in the office, flying on a plane on Friday night, going to a personal appearance in a store on a Saturday, and then in the store, listening to the customer's needs and hearing what it was that they wanted or they felt that they didn't have. And so taking that information, feeding it back to the team and saying, guess what? This is the demand and this is what people want from us. So let's continue this mission in delivering product that you can feel comfortable in your skin in and be comfortable in your jeans in, no pun intended. And that really was like the biggest lesson for me. It was like listening to the customer, not being hard-headed, and like not putting blinders on, but then staying true to the brand. So you have to funnel everything that you get as information, not try to be everything to everyone, put it through the lens of your eyes of the brand, and then deliver. And I think that's been like the part of the business that I've loved the most, and the part of the business that has truly pivoted and extended us into all these different categories and created that lifestyle brand that is truly for men and women, that was founded on just a denim brand.
Yeah, I mean, when you're listening to your customers and they tell you what they want, you know, you can deliver exactly what it is that they're looking for. It's like kind of a no-brainer.
But staying true to your brand, true to your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd imagine it was probably pretty challenging to run it through all those filters and arrive at something that was what the consumers wanted, but also aligned with, you know, the brand vision and values you have for Paige.
Absolutely. But that's been the most fun. It's like the brand is founded on feminine, sexy with a little bit of rock and roll. So through all those product extensions, you're like kind of like I'm embracing the Malibu girl, the bohemian feminine girl, and then the rock and roll music scene in LA. So taking in all those challenges and those requests, and then staying true to those three parts of the brand, and then also filtering them through the men's eyes, is what makes me tick every day. I love it. It's the best fun I've ever had.
Do you have like an exhausted mompreneur persona that maybe I can tap into for a little style guidance?
Okay, I'll work on that next.
You know, big market. A lot of my friends are in that market. Vanessa, same question to you. What have been some pivotal points that have really defined your business or helped you move in a different direction in your company?
Yeah, I would, I love this because there's distinct chapters, I think, of a brand as you're building it. There's definitely the gritty startup mode of, roll up your sleeves and everyone's in it. I would say the first real pivot point was defining culture. Everyone talks about culture being, really a competitive advantage for a business. And I can definitively say at Health Aid, I know it's been for us, but it didn't always start out that way because, starting the company, me and my best friend and her husband, the culture was defined by us, right? It was our DNA. It was our character. It was what we infused into the business. So as we had people join our company, we had this feeling that, oh, they're a culture fit or they're not a culture fit. And we started to understand, definitely some people are thriving in this atmosphere. Some people are not thriving in this atmosphere. And I feel like we really hit a stride when we were able to define and actually put onto words on a paper what our culture was, what our values were. And we came from a Fortune 50 company where values is very much a hollow word sometimes. And so for us, when we defined our values of being standing for goal, because we like to really hit and strive large goals, but it's gritty, optimistic, authenticity, and leadership. we started to build out what that means to us. And it became really clear why people thrived and why people didn't survive at our company. And so for us, that was a real pivot point where we were able to not just grow our culture, but really understand it, have a foundational understanding on who can actually contribute to our culture. I would say since that point to now, we offer a culture interview, we review on our values, we talk about it actively. It's a big competitive advantage for us. And the second big pivot point is alongside what Paige mentioned is professionalizing our brand as we knew it, but through the eyes of the consumer and also through different perspectives, not just our own gut feel of what we want the brand to be. So, our brand is defined as being, bubbly, optimistic, bold, even a tad rebellious at times, but more than anything, fun. And so anything that we do, anything that we touch, line extensions, our messaging, we've had to extend this brand work out to our team, and they really have to kind of put it through the funnel of, is it meeting the brand promise? It's no longer just up to us to define it. And now our team is professionalizing it and really allowing it to take on a life of its own. And it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, when you have those vision and values and the brand promise clearly defined, it makes all of those other decisions really easy to make because it's either in alignment with that or it's not. And then it's a no.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful to have all of that established as you make all of these decisions and, your brand identity, your hiring decisions, just get real crystal clear on those values. And you can
100%. It's helped a lot.
Yeah. And Dr. Horton, same question to you. I mean, maybe the pivot for you was finally going from academia and starting to, instead of spending money on all of your degrees, pivoting to actually start making some money. But no, for real, what would you define as some of the kind of pivotal moments for you?
Sure. I started my business back in 2005 after I left an executive role in the media industry. And when I started it, I really kind of did some of the same stuff that I did, previously in the previous role around branding and marketing. And so, to Vanessa's point about the chapters that we open and close, one huge pivot was moving from, having a consultancy focused on branding and promotion to moving into the HR space as I dug into my own authenticity and really wanted to do work that really empowered me and was more driven towards what the work that I wanted to do in the future, for long story short. So that was the first pivot, and that was just into the HR space, primarily around training development, that sort of stuff. The next pivot was deciding that, I wanted to move and take that to the next level. And that was deciding who I wanted to be and who I wanted to be and how I wanted to be defined as we move through the unfolding of the future of work and through the next decade, through 2030. Who did I want to be? And so I had to answer that question first. And so who I wanted to be was to be a leader and empower that really, shepherded people through the unfolding of the future of work. And so that really kind of drove some other decisions around the business. And so what did that mean? That meant that I had to reskill, right? Completely skill up. So a bunch of letters behind my name, but none in AI, right? None in data analytics. So that meant that I had to go get a micro credential from MIT and, AI business strategy, micro credentials from Cornell and data analytics. It also meant that I had to go back to school at 50 to get a doctorate because I wanted to have some grounding in my level of expertise. And so all of my work for my doctorate, I'm an 18 grad from Rossier. All my research was very purposeful and intentional because I wanted to leverage it on the other side of that. So it was about the future of work, artificial intelligence, the impact of people, organizations, and also the role that higher education played in that. So I was very strategic in matching those pieces together so that I could leverage the business in 2 or 3 different domains, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I'll say the next pivot that happened during COVID. And so I've been, all of my work has been focused around, being a workforce futurist, a future of work, and having a high level of expertise in that space. But I started getting calls from new clients and folks finding me on LinkedIn and other places asking me about my insights on the future as it related to the values, perspectives, and behaviors of millennials, Gen Z, and alphas as we move forward into the future. And so I had to stop and say, I'm not just a workforce futurist. That's where my passion is. But what is the next pivot? The next pivot is really around embracing the notion that I am a futurist, period. And so defining who I wanted to be allowed me to see that. And so the business will continue to evolve in that space. To Paige's point, I can't serve everyone, so the core of the business will still be focused on the future of work. But I'll add, these other couple of other aspects to it in the context of work, and those are tied to what does this new unfolding look like now that it's been COVID altered, right? And so, what other considerations do we need to make about the future? And also an aging component. We have an aging workforce. We've got huge numbers. I cannot wait. It'll probably be a decade before we really get a lot of data about how, transformative, living through 2020 was, not just in the context of the pandemic, but in the context of all that we experienced. But yeah, I look forward to the next pivot. And the next pivot will probably be about 3 to 4 years out. It should be an iterative process.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the pandemic. There's no avoiding the subject. We're all living through this once in a century pandemic, which has presented a lot of unique challenges for us as entrepreneurs and how we're pivoting our businesses during this really challenging time of economic uncertainty. So what advice would you give to other business owners that are dealing with this, Paige?
It's such a good question. And, for me, it was to continue to evolve and grow. My favorite quote has been like, if you were doing what I was yesterday, today, you're a day behind me. And we have 9 bars that are on the back of all of our jeans. That's the little whip stitch that's on the back of the jeans. And those 9 bars represent evolution, and they continue to evolve and grow. And what I feel is the most important thing, especially during this pandemic, was to make sure that we were listening, embracing our culture, taking care of the people that are really important in the business, and to not stop. So we didn't furlough anyone in the beginning. We kept moving forward. We kept pivoting and thinking about what we need to do to focus on the consumer change in buying and what kind of product should we focus on designing right now while people are in their homes and wanting to be cozy. So instead of focusing on some of those super dressy items and super dressy shoes and super dressy categories, start focusing on more luxe, comfortable pieces within the wardrobe that the customer would be attracted to, and then focusing on our online presentation because our consumer might not be shopping in stores because they can't get out there, but they're shopping online. So what does the online voice feel like? What does it sound like? What stories are we telling? How can we draw people in? And how can we not lose our customer base? And then finally, I think we were really focusing on also pivoting the brand in the sense of growth in our culture and our customer base. So what I think is really important is our customer is aging. They've loved our brand for 16 years and they're growing with the brand. And how can we bring in the new generation and not stop with just focusing on the customer base that we have now, but opening eyes to this newer customer that wants to discover Paige and get excited about Paige and buy Paige. And how can we bring her into the equation too, so we can focus on the future of the business, the culture of the business, and make sure that we take care of the teams that have gotten us here today. So all of those things with inclusivity have been the things that I've focused on the most. And it's, we're still standing. So my theme song for the year by Elton John is We're Still Standing.
Yeah, we are. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I actually want to jump over to some of the questions that were asked by the attendees. This one's really standing out to me, and I'd love to hear each of you weigh in on this question. What is your advice on how young entrepreneurs can find their niche? Oftentimes, there's so many businesses and ideas that already exist, and I sometimes get discouraged thinking that I won't be able to make an impact or or I will be drowned in what's already out there. Such a great question, especially in, our respective areas where you're not creating, well, maybe Vanessa, kind of coming in and creating a mainstream kombucha seems maybe like a challenge to find that niche, but how do you niche down? How do you find your idea? And what do you do if you feel like you're entering a crowded market space?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So this resonates with me because, about 10 years ago, literally the year before we started Health Aid, I was at USC Business School. And one of the classes I took was feasibility. And at the time, I was working for the man. My 9-to-5 job was not fulfilling me. And I was feeling like I needed to make a change. And in my feasibility class, the whole goal was to start a business. And at the end of class, at the end of the school term, you would decide go or no go if you're going to start the business or not. And I remember kind of drawing up all the homework, doing all the things I needed to do for it, bouncing that idea off of my now business partners and just saying, what do you guys think? And it was a cancer comfort website, so nothing to do with kombucha today. But ultimately, I said, I'm not going to move forward with this because the money to do this is too expensive. But, we got into a great dialogue on the business, and where we ended up is actually starting an entrepreneur club between me, my best friend, and her husband. And so it's in that entrepreneur club where we started talking about different pains and solutions in society. You can't find a parking spot anywhere on Main Street in Santa Monica. Is there a parking spot finder app? Stuff like that. And so we landed on kombucha because the male of our trio actually was going bald, said his hairdresser, and we were going to create an all natural hair loss product through kombucha. And so, I guess the heart of this is, we did all the market analysis. We saw the competitors out there. We evaluated how much money it might need to get it off the ground. That's why we said no to so many other businesses. But with this one, there was a little bit of ignorant bliss because we didn't know quite how much money we needed to start up the company. And we just had this excitement about we can brew kombucha. We can do that. We can just buy the ingredients and do this in our kitchen. It was tangible. And so I guess I would say, don't let perfection get in the way. Just take it one step at a time, and don't let the heaviness of it all paralyze you.
I would add to that and say we are living in an enormous transformative period. This will be the most transformative decade of your lifetime. Look for opportunities in between the spaces that emerge between robots, machines, and algorithms and humans. Think about what new problems you can solve and how you can leverage tech to do that, or how you can use artificial intelligence, 3D printing, all of the futuristic, there's a list of them. We don't have enough time to go through that. But how can you leverage those technologies to amplify work that you want to do around your passion? But the growth and the new opportunities, I think, that will inspire you are in between those spaces.
Yeah. Paige, let's wrap on this question to you. Entering the pretty crowded denim space when you did, how did you feel like you had something that you could bring to the table that hadn't already been done? And how did you not let that discourage you?
It's so crazy because I got goosies when Vanessa started talking about what her situation was like. And I'll never forget that every time I started to pitch my idea to an investor or to a sales force or to a retailer about wanting to start my own denim company, they're like, well, why should we buy your denim? What's going to be different than yours? And what I had talked about earlier was that the denim industry was predominantly male, and it was all focused on by what they would call the denim mafia. So they were all male designers. Everyone knew each other. And there was no one that had a female fresh perspective to denim. And I really looked at denim as something that was fashion, not as just an item that's in your closet that serves a purpose of comfort and durability. And so I started thinking about all the shoes I used to buy. And I'd be like, I love shoes and I love fashion. So if I'm shoe shopping and these are the new shoe silhouettes that are important and trending, what kind of denim am I going to want to wear back to those shoes? It's chunky heels are fashionable right now. So I think a wide leg is really what's imperative to that chunky heel. And this kind of top or sweater or, woven jacket or blazer is what's trending right now. What kind of denim am I going to want to wear back to that? And then I really started thinking about the inclusivity of the different body types. And what really, the voice I heard really loudly is when I was a young girl, I was overweight and I suffered from, overeating. And they would call me Pudgy Paigey and Miss Piggy when I was in school. And then I went the other extreme and I became anorexic and I suffered from an eating disorder and was super skinny. And I thought about all my friends and like the sport of going to find denim that made them feel good about themselves. And it was like a sporting event. It was like, I hate it as much as I hate trying on swimsuits. So I thought if I could be inclusive and think about all these different body types, heights, and shapes, and develop a brand that was talking about and speaking about those traumas in fashion, that I could speak to a customer base and have a brand named Paige, which was my name, that people could come to and say, hey, Paige, can you help me with my fashion trauma? And it wasn't like you were just in the abyss looking for help. Like there was someone you could come to. I could speak your language as a woman and embrace your problems and help you find solutions. So that's really where the idea came to light and what makes me passionate to this day.
Oh, I love that so much. I love that message of inclusivity. And obviously that served you so well as you founded your company and brought that personal experience to the table. So thank you for sharing that. And everybody here, thank you, Paige, Vanessa, Dr. Horton. What an honor it was to chat with you all today. I learned so much. It's so inspiring to hear from you all. And so thank you all for participating. And we're going to take another 10-minute break. So grab some coffee, tea, a kombucha, and return to the main stage at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for our series of Trojan Talks. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.